friends and foe alike. We are going to do some mastering in today's video. And if you're looking for a video on like how to do mastering in the year 2026, this ain't gonna be it, right? This is just my approach. I've already had a previous video explaining my thoughts on mastering in the year 2026. I think a lot of it is overblown, yada yada yada. We don't need to get into that right now, okay? Today's video, we're going to be mastering a song that I did, Where Is My Mind? I showcased that in my How to Record Without a Click Track series. And today's video is going to be really simple. I was really hoping you guys didn't want to see this video because it's kind of a pain in the ass to record everything and do it. But listen, the sacrifices I go through, all right? Now, I already saved the time. I already got the tape on the 2-track here. And our setup today is going to be really simple. I'll show you that in a second. Now, let's just talk about the goals here, right? So, the mastering stage for me is once again extremely simple. I'm going to EQ both the left and right channels, and then I'm going to add some limiting to those channels. That's all I'm going to do. Now, in the past, my approach for mastering is going to be much different than the song today. In the past, that was before both my 16-track and this 2-track were properly calibrated to the best of my abilities. Actually, at that time, this tape deck was so out of whack that when I did my mastering stage, really I was just trying to compensate for how piss poor the frequency response was on this tape machine. But since I have calibrated without a tape, mind you, to the anger to some people, this thing is sounding so much better than it did. And really, the mix I put on YouTube for you guys to listen to for that click track video, you know, that was without any EQing and any limiting. And by far, I think that is probably the best sounding song I've done to date. Is it my best song songwriting-wise? I don't know. I definitely think I'm improving in a lot of ways. And one of the things we have to remember as recording engineers is some of the best mixing tools you have is the songwriter. And if you're doing the songwriting yourself, you know, your ability to be a songwriter and the choices you make during your songwriting and tracking are going to have way more of an effect than on the outcome than your mastering stage, right? So while I was recording the song and writing the song, I was way more conscious than I've ever been for one of my personal songs, thinking about, okay, maybe less is more in certain sections. Maybe I shouldn't have this many guitars playing at once. And maybe as the song plays back, I'll point out a couple things that personally I tried for this song that I think helps the outcome of the, you know, the way the final song sounds like. And by far, EQing is always the hardest thing I struggle with when mixing. And again, this song, even though the EQing is atrocious, it's still many steps above any of the music I put out for, like, say, on my LP Distorted Proportions. I think I'm definitely growing, and again, it makes the mastering stage much easier. So anyway, the reason I brought this up was when I put this song out on the YouTube without any of the mastering stage, I'm somewhat happy with how that turned out, just without any of that mastering stage. Again, previously, before this was calibrated, the songs were unusable without my EQ stage. So I think this is going to be an interesting test for me, and you know, I'm going to be learning kind of how to do this. Not really how to do this, but I'm going to be learning as I go, as I do it on camera. So hopefully I could give some insight of what my brain's thinking and how I'm processing everything. I think it's going to be fun. Let's just show you what the setup is today. Okay, so obviously here we have the 2-track machine here, the Tascam 22.2. And then I'm using the insert on my patch bay right there, the 2-track insert. I'm routing the output from that 2-track to the input of my Ashley SC66 right here, which is down here, this blue machine right here. You're going to be seeing a lot more of that as this video goes on. The output of that EQing is then being routed to this Ashley compressor here. Now, normally, you know, this is a new unit for me. Usually I use this top Ashley here for my limiting when I'm doing my mastering. However, for the sake of the video, so you can see both the EQing and the limiting that's happening to the track at the same time, you can see I'm using this Ashley compressor here. And this is like the next iteration of the one I usually use. This is the CL52E. This is the CLX52. they probably sound exactly the same. Rather, I don't think you could probably tell the difference. I haven't done tests, but this is the next iteration. If anything, it might sound a little bit cleaner because it's a little bit newer, and the capacitors are probably more in tolerance. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. The output of this limiter then just goes straight back to my board, where nothing is happening on my board. It's just coming out of two outputs that are plugging straight into my camera. When I go to rip this to my computer, I'm not going to be using my camera. I'm going to be using a Focusrite interface, which you can't see right now, directly to my computer. I'll show you that later. We're not going to worry about that right now. So let's just get to the actual mastering now. All right, so let's get started. Now, I should mention that for all the mastering here, I'm going to be wearing headphones. Normally, I do not do this. This is not ideal. You want to use your monitors in your control room if possible. However, this room is still untreated, as it is a new room for me, and I have not had the money to properly build some acoustic treatment. So for now, we're using headphones. Again, not ideal, but I figured I'd mention it. So let's stop talking and let's start setting the levels on the limiter. Now, right now, let's rewind a little bit. Let's just start at the beginning of the song. And I don't know how interesting it is for you guys to hear the song play over and over and over. So I'm going to try to keep this short as possible. And I don't know, hopefully it's not too annoying. Or maybe you'll love the song so much you don't mind. You know what, let's not start at the very beginning. Let's start somewhere around here. Because the beginning is a little quiet. Let's wait till the song kicks in. And, alright, we need to set up the limiting first. We have the EQ all off for each of the channels, right? So that this EQ is not affecting the signal right now. And when I do limiting, a general rule of thumb is you want to be somewhere around 3 dB maximum of gain reduction, right? So on this unit, there's 2 LEDs on each channel, the 2 and the 4. So we want to see maybe the 4 light up every now and then. We don't want it too much. Now, this song has a lot of different dynamics. There's quiet sections, there's loud sections, so we're going to have to play with it. Ultimately, as I always say, or anyone worth their salt is going to say, is you always have to use your ears. Some songs are going to require more limiting, and there's some songs that don't even require any limiting, right? It's kind of the modern age where everything is just brick wall limited and it's super loud, but, you know, if you're going for an old school sound, you might not necessarily need this. Now, I should mention, I didn't mention it before, that the mix we're listening to right now out of the tape machine had master bus compression on it. And again, I was using that Ashley CL52E. I probably, if I had to guess, a ratio of 3 to 5 with a slow attack, fast release. So for this, let's set our settings. So right now, these are both on infinite ratio for limiting. We are going to do a fast attack time and fast release time on both. All right, so limiting, fast attack, fast release. Right now I have the outputs and the inputs both on unity gain. And we're going to use this threshold knob to control the amount of compression. And we'll go from there. Okay. Let's just get started. Let's press play.
God, why? God would not answer. Instead, silence echoed through the apartment.
All right, let's roll back the
This
threshold.
caused Baxter to ritualistically ponder, where is my mind?
All right, so we're getting some triggering.
Laughing through her teeth, she barely feigns a smile. Someone to calm her mind. She only wears old perfume once it goes out of style. Someone to calm her.
All right, I mean, right where I set it, right out of the bat, it is pretty much exactly where I want it. Now, I'm going to increase the lower rather the threshold a little bit, and I'm going to get more gain reduction. I just want to hear what the audible effects are, and maybe I'll do an extreme just so you could hear it on the camera, because it's always really hard to hear these subtle changes through YouTube. You hear this stuff way more when you're here in person listening to the stuff, so maybe I'll be exaggerated just to make a point. See here.
She keeps her shoelaces loose, but her lips a little looser.
I mean, you could really hear that.
Her tongue is cold as ice, so you cannot refuse her. Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
I mean, that sounds good. I'm not going to do much there. I could tweak this later after I do the EQ. I'm just going to match the threshold on these as close as possible, even though it's in stereo, so it shouldn't matter too much, but good practice to have them close as possible to another. All right, so let's focus on the EQ. Now, normally, as I said before, I'm doing heavy-handed EQ to make the final mix usable, really. And I would mainly look for 4 things, because I have, this is a 4 band parametric EQ. So let's start with the easy, the high end. On this tape machine, I was experiencing a significant lack of high end. So I was boosting, I think I usually put this knob somewhere around the 16K, and I'd boost probably about 6 dB at most, maybe 3 dB, half the other times. And just to quickly explain here, we have, the high end, the high mids, the low mids, the lows. This is where you boost or attenuate the signal. This is where you choose the frequency. And this is how you change, what is this, the Q? Is that what they call it? How narrow or wide the band of EQ that you are affecting. And it's probably hard to see the numbers. Let me zoom in a little bit. I want you to see the limiting lights while I do this. So I don't want to zoom in too far, but maybe I could make this a little bigger in post. But let's start with putting all of the EQ at 0. And normally, all of my songs are in mono, so it's a lot easier. I could just focus on one at a time, but I'm going to have to match the settings, and that's new to me, so it's going to be new. Let's set these around 16K. I got distracted. What I was saying was, in the past, I would use the high end just to boost the highs, because I was losing so much of the highs going into my tape deck up there. The high mid, I would try to find the snare drum. I would sweep the EQ and boost the snare a little bit, because in rock music and a lot of music, the snare drum is so important. It is by far the most important piece of your drum kit. You might think it's the bass drum, but it's the snare. When you go to a concert and people are listening along to the music, they clap on the 2 and 4, right? That's where the snare is going to be, the 2 and 4. So I'm probably going to take a similar approach this time around. This, I would try to find the body of the drums, maybe the bass guitar. I would usually think a little bit less about this one and just use my ears as best as possible. And then the low end, again, just kind of like, obviously, I would try to search for the boom of the bass drum, or maybe if the bass was lacking, I'd try to boost it here. This time around, I might actually do some cutting instead of boosting. In the past, I've only ever boosted, but maybe because I'm way more happier with the EQ of this mixdown, maybe I might attenuate. Once again, I'm learning as we go here, and I hope you guys learned something from it yourself. So let's rewind the song all the way to the beginning, and we're going to start with the high end and work our way down probably. And I'm going to try to do this all in live time. Hopefully it's not too boring. I don't know, go watch a different video. All right, we're ready. Rewind a little bit. Probably right there. All right, here we go, baby.
Shine-bearing, absent-minded floorboard, helplessly ignored. His pathetic musing of an existence consisted of shifting, drifting, and pleading for a life of more. At night he lie awake, belly up on the fire escape, peering up at the stars, questioning God, why? God would not answer. Instead, silence echoed through the apartment. This calls Baxter to ritualistically ponder, where is my mind?
Laughing through her teeth, she barely feigns a smile. Someone to calm her mind. She only wears old perfume once it goes out of style. Someone to calm her mind. She keeps her shoelaces loose, but her lips a little looser.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. You can see I was kind of sweeping different levels of attenuation. I kept the frequency at 16K, and I initially had the Q. I don't know what these numbers mean on here, but I had it around the 0.3 mark. I'm gonna have to look at the manual what those actually mean. But I had them around the 0.3, and as you go more clockwise, it's more narrow. Hopefully, I don't know if you can see that on camera, but that's more narrow of the band. And I just wasn't getting enough of effect that I wanted, so I went around 2, which seemed to be a good area, and I was boosting a large area of the EQ here. You know, keep in mind, in all of my videos, I have no idea what the f*** I'm doing. I'm just making it up as I go along. So if you're watching this going, this idiot has no idea what the f*** he's doing, that's alright, I don't know. The whole point of this channel is that I'm a home recordist just trying to learn my way, so hopefully you find it interesting. Now, that sounded pretty good. I didn't want to be too heavy-handed and have too much of an effect. I think this is a pretty good middle ground. Again, in the past, I added way more and had way more of an effect. I might have used to done 9 dB because this is having less of an effect as I am used to. Anyway, so the high end's somewhere around where we want. As we go through the song, I'm obviously going to have to make adjustments as I work on this other stuff. There's a couple points in the song, which I'll point out to them, where the high end is a little harsh to your ears on some playback systems. So I have to be wary of that. Again, I'll point those out when I think it's a little harsh on the ears, and you know, I'm going to be listening on my headphones. Maybe it's not as harsh as it is on other sources, so I don't know. Let's just keep going here. Now I'm going to focus on this high mid, try to hear the snare come out a little more.
Cannot refuse her. Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my
mind? Hold on, let's rewind back to when the snare first kicks in.
Cannot refuse her. Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my
As you can see, I'm having a little trouble here. I'm not even, like I said, I'm used to doing mono sources. I have to make sure these are all more or less in the same settings. Because, you know, I'm trying to monitor, obviously, the left and right channel at the same time, and it's a little hard, obviously, when you have 2 separate controls, and I'm trying to do this all on camera, and I'm at an awkward angle, so bear with me. Again, I'm going to rewind a little bit. And, again, I'm usually boosting a lot, but I might have started attenuating, so let's see where we're at.
God would not answer. Instead, silence echoed through the apartment. This calls Baxter to ritualistically ponder, where is my mind?
Laughing through her teeth, she barely feigns a smile. Someone to call her mine. She only wears old perfume once it goes out of style. Someone to call her mine. She keeps her shoelaces loose, but her lips a little looser. Someone to call her mine. Her tongue is cold as ice, so you cannot refuse her.
So a couple things. I'm actually having a lot more trouble finding what I want to do with that high mid. Usually it's like right away I find it. Another thing I just realized, well, it seems kind of obvious, right? The high end that I'm boosting in the quiet sections, man, that tape hiss all of a sudden gets boosted through the roof. Let's rewind a little bit. And again, when I'm hitting these toggle switches, I'm turning those sections on and off just to get an A-B comparison, right? So I'm going to toggle on and off the high end in those quiet sections. You're going to hear the tape hiss really come up. And, you know, when I was doing the full mix, it sounded great with where this is at. But now in the quiet sections, I'm like, wait a minute, I have to do some manipulating here to make sure I'm not boosting that tape hiss too much.
Each other's each other's
That girl can suck down a cigarette faster than Chic and Asher.
Okay, so a couple things. I am narrowing the band section here. I also want to point out the section of the song we just listened to, there's distortion in there from my handheld microphone. I left that in on purpose. It didn't happen intentionally when I was recording, but I liked it so much I wound up keeping it. So there's not distortion happening here. There is some distortion though when I'm manipulating the controls on here. You'll hear little crackles here and there, but that part of the song, the distortion there is deliberate. So keep that in mind. Let's rewind a little bit. Let's work on this tape hiss thing a little bit.
That girl can suck down a cigarette faster than Chic and Asher. Then she'll wash it down with a cheap bottle of wine and a half a tip of capsule. She likes to recite poetry live through her dial tone as she curls her fingers to the cord of her Ferrari red phone.
All right, so that's interesting, and I'm sorry if I keep pausing and changing. I'm really just trying to say my thoughts out loud here as quick as they happen, because I think that's how we're both going to learn here. Now, again, I'm so used to boosting that this is the first time I've ever been attenuating stuff during my mastering stage, and I'm noticing right here on this low mid, right now I have it at 400 EQ, which is usually like where people say like the mud is, the boxiness comes in, and I want you to hear the difference as I boost and move my way towards attenuating that section of the frequency. It actually sounds a lot tighter when I'm attenuating it. So let's rewind a little bit. And another thing I want to point out, just as a little, not an Easter egg, I don't know how to describe it, but you will hear, if you listen closely, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it on YouTube, but if you listen closely during the quiet sections before the full band kicks in, you could hear the print through of the material before the loud section comes in. That's just a byproduct of recording on tape. It's always going to be present there to some degree. When you're listening to the song normally, you don't hear it, but when you have headphones on, if you listen closely, you could actually kind of hear it. It's kind of interesting. There's ways to get around it. If you store tails out, it reduces it, which I store all of my tape tails out. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Let's go back to what the hell I was saying about the 400 hertz EQ. Let's rewind a little bit. Let's rewind all the way back. This section's probably the loudest part of the song with the guitar solo. So I haven't really been keeping my eyes on the limiting. Hopefully you guys have been for me. I'm going to see where the song is at, the loud section.
That girl can suck down a cigarette faster than Chic and Asher. Then she'll wash it down with a cheap bottle of wine and a half a tip by chapstick. She likes to recite poetry live through her dial tone as she curls her fingers to the cord of her Ferrari red phone.
I love you, Miss Cuban.
Drink. Queen.
Did you hear what I said, Miss Cuban? I absolutely adore you.
Shut up and do you?
Slipping through the window tonight. Pop on and turn off the light. Sitting on the fire to breathe. Just to laugh and enjoy each other's company. Stars spin till the world falls down. For me, for me, for me.
This section coming up is so busy. We'll see what it sounds like.
I'm falling down.
Okay, so a couple things. One, with the tape hiss, I gotta be honest with you guys. I don't give a shit about the tape hiss. If there's a little bit of tape hiss in there, I don't give a alright? This music's just for me. If you don't want to listen to it, whatever, alright? So, I'm not too worried about that. I think where I kind of have the EQ set for this stuff is pretty close to where I want it. If you notice, I don't have any of the EQ being manipulated more than 3 dB. And I want that to be, pretty important takeaway here is that, in general, your mastering stage, you should not be doing wide, drastic changes to your end result, right? And in the past, like I've said, because of deficiencies in the calibration of my tape deck, I was doing that, but that's not ideal, right? Like, ideally, your mix down should be as close as physically possible to what you want your end product to sound like. You never want to finish a song and say, oh, we'll fix those problems during the mastering stage, because that's never going to happen. Now, in the same token, most of the things I would change in this song really have to do with my songwriting and my instrumentation and probably saying, I probably shouldn't have had that many guitars on the end outro of the song. It's just a little too busy, and it just becomes a little bit of a kind of a sonic mess, right? Now, I did notice, you'll notice at the outro there, that the high-mid EQ section became really important, and taming that down, to me, made that section of the song a little more tolerable to the ears, because before that, I don't know, it was just a little too noisy for me, and kind of missing that polish, where the rest of the song is by far the most polished sounding song, and I know you're probably thinking that's not polished, but for me, I'm more of a garage guy. It's more polished, and I think just that it was just too many guitars. Let's actually reverse a little bit. Let's listen to that outro section, because I think that was the part I wanted to work on the most, because if you listen very closely, I deliberately put like a guitar lead with a phaser on it, like buried deep into the mix, and in hindsight, it's a little too low, and I want to see if I could kind of carve some space to kind of get that to bring it out a little more. There's actually a lot going on in that end section. You could hear another sample from the movie The Apartment. There's two samples in that song. That one is on the second chorus, which is a lot more obvious. But it's buried in there deep. Again, that was intentional. I wanted it to be buried in, but in hindsight, it's a little too buried. So let's see if we could kind of work on that a little bit and get to hear that a little better.
I'm falling down.
Wow, it's so interesting how much more you hear when you're listening to your mix on headphones versus just on consumer speakers. I'm hearing things that I've been listening to the song continuously for the past couple months. I mean, not continuously, but I go through like certain weeks where I'll listen to it on repeat in the car on the drive home, and I miss so much stuff because the speakers in my car are, terrible, but listening to it on headphones, it's like, wow, this mix in a lot of places is a lot better than I thought, and it's a lot worse than I thought in a lot of places, and I just think that's interesting. I think we should start from the beginning of the song again, and do some minor tweaking. Maybe I'll talk as we go along, we'll see. And, of course, when I'm done with this, I'm going to be posting this full mix online. I do want to save this for a future release, but, for the sake of video, I'm going to put it on YouTube so you guys can listen to, and we're going to be able to compare the old mix to the new mix. I think the differences are going to be a lot more minor than you would think. Again, I just accidentally rewinded the tape too much. God damn it. This tape machine doesn't have a stop portion. Give me a second. Let me pause the video. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. That's my slate track, so I could sync the audio. All right, here we go, baby.
Baxter was a necktie-wearing, shoe-shine-bearing, absent-minded floorboard, helplessly ignored. His pathetic musing of an existence consisted of shifting, drifting, and pleading for a life of more. At night he lie awake, belly up on the fire escape, peering up at the stars, questioning God, why? God would not answer. Instead, silence echoed through the apartment. This caused Baxter to ritualistically ponder, where is my mind?
Laughing through her teeth, she barely feigns a smile. Someone to call her mine.
She only wears old perfume once it goes out of style.
Someone to call her mine.
She keeps her shoelaces loose, but her lips a little looser.
Someone
hearing the same distortion at a point. I wonder if that's on the final mix. I've never noticed that before.
My tongue is cold as ice, so you cannot refuse her.
Right there. Can you hear that? It's in the left channel. Right there. What is that? Wow, I never noticed that. I've been listening to this song on repeat and I've never noticed that I have some distortion in there that I didn't know about. Anyway, I don't know, baby. This is Garage. Deal with it. Now, I should make it perfectly clear if you haven't surmised that yet. EQ is by far my weakest point when it comes to recording engineer. I have so much to learn when it comes to EQ. And, maybe this isn't the best type of video for you guys to be watching, me teaching you how to do my mastering stage, but I don't know. Like I said, for all my videos, I'm kind of just faking it till I make it. So let's just keep going. I know I said I wasn't going to interrupt the song, so my bad. I know I said I wasn't going to pause it, but I'm in a conundrum here because with this high mid, the EQ I have it at right now, when I boost it a little bit, 4K, the snare is a little more present. You can hear the snap. Sounds good. However, the guitars just become a little too high in the mix, especially towards the end, as I was saying before. The outro sounds a lot better when this is like -3. Now, ideally, I have the same EQ settings the whole song, but I might change it for the outro. I might have it at +3 or +3 dB here, and then at the outro, just tune it down a bit. Is that allowed? Am I allowed to do that? Can I ask the audio gods? I don't know. We might do it. Let's keep mixing a little bit here, or mastering. Also, I haven't talked about it, but I'm hearing... Why am I hearing so much distortion here? What I was going to say was, I'm boosting the bass
That
drum.
girl can suck down a cigarette faster than Chic and Ash.
50 hertz, 3 dB, not much.
Then she'll wash it down with a cheap bottle of wine and a half a tube of chaps. She likes to recite poetry live through her dial tone. As she curls her fingers to the chord of her Ferrari red phone.
I love you, Miss Cuban.
Drink. Queen.
Did you hear what I I said, Miss Kubelik? I absolutely adore you.
Shut up and do you?
Slipping through the window tonight. Pop on and turn the light. Sitting on the fire to breathe. Just to laugh and enjoy each other. Stars spin till the world falls down. For me, for me, for me. I'm falling down.
Okay, so I think I changed my mind. I think I do want to boost the 4K. I definitely still want to cut a little bit here. I'm cutting by about 5 dB there, a little more than I was expecting. I think I'm going to do a little bit more tweaking off camera because I think I'm going to be here a while and I don't think you guys want to watch a 3-hour long video. So let me do a little tweaking off camera and I'll let you know if I change anything. Okay, so a couple things. Again, I want to reiterate, it's painfully obvious to you guys watching that when it comes to EQing, I have so much to learn. I have still a lot to learn. This is not a how-to master type of video. Something that is a bigger kind of message in all of my videos, though, is, and something I struggle with, especially when I'm doing like these kind of like tutorial type of videos, is, you know, there's what everyone else is doing, and what the industry's doing, and what you should be doing, I guess. But I always just try to take a different approach where, I don't know, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't like a lot of the modern music that is coming out these days. And I don't know, because what I'm trying to get at here is, like, during this whole video, I'm being really self-conscious of the decisions I'm making. I'm doing things I wouldn't normally do just for the sake of the camera. And I'm thinking in my head, what should I be doing? What kind of EQ changes would a real mastering engineer be making that I should be trying to replicate on camera? And at the end of the day, it's like, if this camera wasn't on, I wouldn't be thinking about any of that stuff. I would just be listening to my ears and going, yeah, that's what I want. I don't care if someone listens to it and says, oh, that sounds like crap. You know what I mean? Like, I always want to make that one of my core messages in all my videos, is that as a home recordist, we get, or I really don't that much, but I see other people get caught up in what you should be doing and what other people are doing and the right way to do things. And honestly, it's just so nauseating after a while. If you want to sound like everyone else out there, sure, follow all the videos online telling you exactly what to do. That's not what this video was about, right? It was just, I wanted you guys to hear what I was thinking and what my thought process was. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoy it. I made some minor changes to the EQ. I reduced the amount I was attenuating for the 400 hertz, but everything else, I think it pretty much stayed the same. Again, I'm only boosting or attenuating 3 dBs in a couple areas. It's not a drastic change. It's really just adding a little bit extra spice here and there. One thing I cannot stress enough is I'm doing all this with headphones on, and this is so not ideal to be doing it that way. As a test, I just took off my headphones and I just listened to the mix on my control room monitors, and it sounded so different, so different. And unfortunately, in this room right now, because I don't have acoustic treatment, I can't trust my monitors. I can't really trust what they sound like. So I'm shooting blind. Usually what I do, and I've done in the past, is I'll do, I'll rip this mix to my computer. I'll go listen to it in my car. I'll go listen to it on a Bluetooth speaker. I'll go listen to it with headphones on. I'll go listen to it through my phone speaker. And then I'll say, okay, what could I make differently? What could I change? What don't I like? What do I like? And I'll go back and do another iteration. And it's as simple as that. I think I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to rip what we have to my computer, and I'm going to take a listen to it. And if I like it, then I'm going to post it online for you guys to hear, and you could hear the end result. Okay? That's what I'm going to do. And to get my final master from the tape machine through my mastering stage, through the board, I am setting it to a Focusrite right here. And then I am going straight into good old-fashioned Audacity. Nothing more fancy than that.
Baxter was a necktie-wearing, shoe-shine-bearing, absent-minded floorboard, helplessly ignored. His pathetic musing of an existence consisted of shifting, drifting, and pleading for a life of more. At night he'd lie awake, belly up on the fire escape, peering up at the stars, questioning God, why? God would not answer. Instead, silence echoed through the apartment. This caused Baxter to ritualistically ponder, where is my mind?
Laughing through her teeth, she barely feigns a smile. Someone to calm her mind. She only wears old perfume once it goes out of style. Someone to calm her mind. She keeps her shoelaces loose, but her lips a little looser. Someone to calm her mind. Her tongue is cold as ice, so you cannot refuse her.
Miss Cubic?
3. Queen.
Did you hear what I said, Miss Cubic? I absolutely adore you.
Shut up and do you?